More people believe in UFOs than believe in the United States Congress. When I'm in a meeting and somebody tells me that the president is on a need-to-know basis, that tells me that there's definitely somebody behind the scenes pulling some strings. Most major nations have something, or they have information, or they've cooperated with another ally. I don't know if it's little green men or flying saucers. I just want to know what we're spending billions of dollars on.
Now, as President Obama let the cat out the bag, he went on the record to discuss the possibility that UFOs might have crossed his desk when he was president. Donald Trump says he's been giving away too much, but one man that's been pushing this for many years is a congressman from the great state of Tennessee, Tim Burchett, and he's here today on Harry Cole Saves the West. Congressman, thank you for joining us. As a man who's been pushing at the door, the very closed door of UFOs and other extraterrestrial theories for decades, you must be feeling pretty vindicated right now, aren't you?
I don't know what vindicated is until they, if they just show some of the stuff I've seen, brother, and I'd feel vindicated, I guess. That would be great.
I asked our viewers and our listeners earlier if they had any questions for you. And someone came up with a really good point. Is given that we all walk around with $1,000 iPhones in our hands that have ultra HD cameras, we video, we record everything on social media. Why still, and that's been the case for more than a decade and a half now, why has no one got that killer clip yet?
Well, I think our government probably does, and I'll leave it at that. I think there's, again, if they just show some of the things I've seen, I think they would turn up the heat a little bit, and America would demand disclosure.
Your congressional act has demanded that these videos and data and evidence is published in the next 270-odd days, I believe. Are you confident that they're going to comply?
No. 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 You remember when they let out that, I don't even remember, it was during Trump's first term, they had, or it might have been Biden, I'm not sure, but they were going to release this file and all this, it was going to be hot. And I said at that time, I think it was TMZ I was on, and they said, I said, they're going to release it, and then, or they say they're going to release it, but somebody's going to pull them back. And then what we get will be a bunch of redacted files. Look like somebody shot it with a 12-gauge shotgun. And then I made the statement of, I said, more people believe in UFOs than believe in the United States Congress. I ended up putting that on a T-shirt, and it sold pretty well on my website. But the reality is, I don't think they're gonna fight this thing tooth and nail. When I'm in a meeting and somebody tells me that the president is on a need-to-know basis, that tells me that there's definitely somebody behind the scenes pulling some strings.
Well, but the president's issued a direct order for the Pentagon at least to comply. Haskell says he's gonna comply. Who's pulling the strings beyond that?
Well, Headset's only been in power for a little bit, and so has President Trump. This stuff's been going on since the 40s that we have documentation of, and of course it's been going on a lot longer than that. I feel like again, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's little green men or flying saucers. I just want to know what we're spending billions of dollars on, and I want to know why every department that they come out and say we don't have files on this, why they've had secret briefings with me and other members of Congress. And why is it so siloed, the information? You can have two guys standing there side by side, one saying they exist and one says they don't. They're from the same department. And they think they're both telling the truth. If they took a lie detector test or put their hand on the Bible and swore to God that they were telling the truth, in their mind, they were. But again, it's so compartmentalized, and I think this stuff's been buried for so long. And back to your question of the cell phones, I just don't think the viewings and the things that people see we're seeing them quite that often. I believe right now you're seeing a lot of AI, and so I don't fully trust that
What do you trust? What's the most undeniable piece of evidence that you think you've seen? You said you've seen some of the things. If I'd seen what you've seen, then I would be in your position. What are we talking?
We'll just have to see that. I go into these, and that's part of the trouble of being in a skiff. If you, and I think that's part of the trick that the government plays on unsuspecting members of Congress, because even if you know what they're going to tell you, you're not allowed to talk about it after you walk out. So some meetings I just won't go to in the skiff because I probably can guess what they're going to say, by which department and who's going to be in that meeting, because I know enough of them. And some of them are just pathetically arrogant jerks, and some of them are sincere patriots.
You talk about it's not just in the skies, but under the sea. You say that we don't know if it's little green men or what, but you talk about you've cited before these underwater rafts that appear to be, non-human and defying gravity, defying the laws of science as we know them. That would suggest something slightly darker than just a sort of good old-fashioned government cover-up. It's the fact that there's perhaps technology out there that's people don't want to be developed.
I believe that. I believe that's true. I believe there's a lot of greed. I think that to think that we can't make it profitable to crack the hydrogen molecule, to get to burn it, to take water and replace it with gasoline, because the oil industry would, what are we going to fight our wars over? What are the war pimps and all these portfolio warriors out here who vote for things so we can go to war, and it increases their stock portfolios, and their kids aren't going off to die in battle. Mine would, but theirs wouldn't. And you said about the under the water thing. You look at that door that's right behind me. That's my side door, and I had a high-ranking, he's a former member of the Navy. The last thing he told me before he went out that door was, "Tim, they're real." And he described a situation under the water that they sonared an object about as big as a football field that was doing close to 200 miles an hour, and there's no fish that's big as a football field, and there sure as hell isn't anything that can do 200 miles an hour. Might get close to 40 miles an hour, and no heat signature as well. We got areas of the sightings that you see a higher report of the propensity of sightings around these deep water areas. And there's 4 or 5 of those in the ocean. We know more about the surface of the moon than we do these areas. And when you're talking several miles down, we don't have the capabilities of anyway, even getting all those areas. And so there's something to be said for that. And there's something to be said for the government cover-up. Why that is, I don't know. My speculation is on the energy, zero source energy things, and heating our homes in the winter and cooling them in the summer free of charge, more or less. So it's pretty appealing to me, but to the big boys, that's not.
So you're suggesting it is whatever it is not us, it's them, and it might not necessarily be extraterrestrial. It's just the oceans are so deep that maybe we just haven't found it yet.
Yes, sir. Them could already be here, and if you think, still the possibility of traveling light years to me is kind of crazy. You talk about something. How do you pack enough food, to go? Even with suspended animation, how do you have the energy source? Just the whole thing of that.
How did you?
And so I just, there's a field of science that's, and I always forget what it's called, but it's you got something vibrating over here, and it can be over here instantaneously. And it's a field of science, and it's I need to write the name of it down again. It's pretty common. I just can't think of it right off the bat because haven't had much sleep, and I'm 61 years old. So there you go.
We'll forgive you that. How did you get into what was it that first sort of piqued your attention? You've obviously been speaking publicly about this for many years, but what was it that started this journey for you?
Well, I have a general distrust of government, and since I've been in it most of my life, and that's for good reason. But I was a little boy, and my parents Daddy had a science background. He was a dean at UT, dean of student conduct. My mama was a math teacher. And and I was kind of an inquisitive kid. I guess if I was around today, if I was a kid today, they would probably have me on some kind of medication for ADA, literally, because my attention, I'm going off I make skateboards at my house just to keep my brain going at night because I don't sleep much, and I'm always into new inventions and new things, and I've got a barn full of stuff, uncompleted projects. But when I was a little kid, I took my Schwinn over to the library there in West Hills across Kingston Pike, or my parents would drop me off and pick me up 2 or 3 hours later. And I just read books, grab books, and they had them all set out, and they had books on I think Bigfoot and UFOs, and I picked up both of them, and I was fascinated by UFOs, and I'm a Christian. I'm not a very good one, but I read my Bible, and it says God created the heavens and the earth. And then when you look at the first chapter of Ezekiel, you saw a wheel. And at that time, and there's a lot of descriptions in there, and it's a King James translation, of course, but you can break it down to that is what you would commonly call a saucer, a wheel within a wheel, and the landing gear and things like that have been described by literally by astronauts. I think it's Gordo Cooper you can go on YouTube and listen to his description of a UFO sighting at a test area. And so it just a natural curiosity. And one night I sleep in my office. My banker told me, he said, "You may be the most honest member of Congress, but you're definitely the poorest." I sleep here, and I can't really afford to go to stay at a motel or own a condo or a house up here, of course. And I was watching, and there was one of the old alien. There's a million of those TV shows on, and I was watching one, and they were talking about their frustration with Congress and some former government officials, and I thought, dang, I'm gonna try to contact those people. And I made a couple of phone calls, and literally the most famous people in the world in this field started calling me, and reporters started calling me. And then, of course, when I was on TMZ and made those statements, because everybody else ran from them on it, I didn't run from them. I have a genuine curiosity, and if America is covering something up, they need to. And it turns out they're spending millions, if not billions of dollars on something within almost every alphabet. I don't think the IRS has a department on it, but you look at the NASA, the Air Force, the Space Force, the FBI. I've been briefed by them before on some stuff that I wish that would get released, and you just go down the list, and everybody has, but they'll bring some knucklehead with a man bun out there telling you in a classified setting that these things don't exist, but then somebody else in another department will come up and refute everything they said, and will say, and they'll tell you that they don't know what these things are, and I've been told by members of the Intelligence Committee in Congress, said, we just don't know what they are.
President Trump seems like quite an inquisitive guy himself. Obviously, he gave the green light to publish the rest of the JFK files. Epstein files took a little bit more of a beating out of him, you'd have to say. But I mean, if any president's going to give us the answers on this one, it's going to be him, right?
I think so. He's a wild card, but his wild card is very tactically done. And I had a conversation about that with him about this very issue, and he's going to, and I explained to him that I've been told that he was on a need-to-know basis. I wanted to light a little fire under him, let him, there's the people out there against him, and I think if you underestimate Donald J. Trump, you'll pay for it.
You think he went downstairs to the Situation Room and got the generals over the table and said, "Come on, what's really going on?" Who's hiding it from the president?
I don't think the generals really know what's going on. I really don't. I think it's you've got some people behind the scenes that are. It's like I told the president, it's like layers of an onion. Just peel them off. It's down deep. It's you think you're just going to clean it up by firing everybody in the department, and that's a security risk. That's why you can't clean these departments up. You got to put somebody in charge that you trust that'll dig for it. The FBI has found files that they did, a locked room they didn't even know existed here just recently on some different stuff. But I mean, that begs the question of what's going on with this.
And that's the stuff that didn't make it into the burn bag. So God knows what God knows what they haven't kept. Do you believe that contacts, has ever been made in any form? Is that could be what they're sitting on?
I don't know. I doubt that I've heard Jimmy Carter cried when he was briefed, and Nixon took Jackie Gleason to view some stuff, and I don't think so. I don't think there's contact with any of our Eisenhower. There's a rumor to that, but I'm such a skeptic of everything now, of either side. I've got to see it with my own two eyes, and then I got to make sure that I'm seeing that, and it's not something that they want me to see. I mean, I just don't. I don't trust anything coming out of this town from either party.
Do you ever think you'll see anything close to an answer in your lifetime?
Well, you said in my lifetime. I was going to say maybe after I'm over, but then it won't really matter. I think what's going to have to happen is somebody's going to have to walk out of one of those labs or one of these defense contractors, because I think that's where the stuff is. I think that they got a little smarter than we are, and these quasi-governmental corporations, and I can pour you something from Ford Motor Company, but but that doesn't mean they don't have to do anything. But if it's a government entity, they have to turn it over. Now, there's probably 5 or 6 of them that have information or material, but they're a non-governmental agency. So it's not going to come from Congress. We can request it and say, we want to see this stuff, but it's like I said, everybody's like, oh, let's get a CODEL, a congressional delegation trip to Area 51. I said, dude, all you're going to get there is a T-shirt, and a picture next to one of those signs that use of deadly force is admissible. I just don't think it's there. Maybe Wright-Patterson had some stuff at one time, but again, once Congress announces it's going somewhere, all you'll see is U-Haul vans hauling the stuff out. I just don't think we're going to do that. I think it's going to be in a lab somewhere. And honestly, I think maybe the people that are looking at it have no idea that it is something that's extraterrestrial or of a foreign entity. They just know they're analyzing a piece of material.
Do you think it's just America that has this sort of information, or other governments? I mean, the Russians were poking around up there as just as much as the Americans were. The Chinese are heading to the moon I think this year or early next year. Do you reckon anyone else has got a similar sort of cache?
Yeah, I think most major nations have something, or they have information, or they've cooperated with another ally to. Again, I think that it's kept pretty tight. These other countries, though, I mean, they can tighten it down more than they can here. We're the spigot getting ready to open, and I question sometimes the stuff that's coming out of Central America. They have a lot of stuff and they hold hearings, but DNA and things like that, they don't get subjected. Maybe they do get subjected due to some guy down there, but I need it to happen up here, and it just doesn't happen. So I tell people to be very cautious of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the Brits have had a fair few reports of things about RAF pilots in the 1950s and 60s seeing some crazy things up there.
Yeah, and they go in cycles too. You'll see it, and you're seeing an uptick right now because of a lot of AI stuff is going on. And right now, and we're going to get smarter than that and be able to pick that stuff out. So I would caution people, unless you see it with your own two eyes, and you haven't smoked a bag of weed and drank a fifth of Jack Daniels before then, maybe then. But until then, let's just be very cautious. I think it would help the UFO community if they would call out the fakes.
Yeah,
jump on board everything so fast, and you've got some charlatans out there that are just selling memberships.
Indeed. So what happens? What's the next move if you get given a big old heap of redacted documents with nothing in it and just black pages after black pages? What's the next tactic to try and keep this cause alive?
It's going to take somebody, one of those labs, brother, or one of those companies just says, we got this and we're bringing it and we're going to put it on YouTube. And they'll have to do it before they're allowed to commit suicide by shooting themselves in the back of the head 5 times because they're going to, it'll set this world on its heels, I think, on its ears or whatever the saying is. They'll
find it.
There will be a lot of talk.
Congressman Tim Burchett from the great state of Tennessee, thank you for joining us. Come back and see us as soon as you hear anything else. We are dying to know, and fascinating that fascinating that President Trump is getting wound up about it too. So good stuff there. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, brother. Hey, are you from England?
Yeah.
Okay, I collect old British motorcycles.
Oh,
I've got
fantastic.
I got a 64 Bonneville, Triumph Bonneville. I've got a 68, 69, a 74. And I got a BSA, 1972 BSA. So,
well, bamboo skateboards and motorcycles. What do you need, sir?
Nothing else to break my neck on, that's for sure.
All
Thank
right,
you, brother.
Good luck. Take care. Thank you for joining us.